Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we enter the month of December, this is where you start really seeing what teams will truly vie for a deep playoff run and those that will be just a disappointment and thud in the postseason. We're going to go through the NFC. The AFC I do not give a damn about because my team is not in the AFC. Maybe we can do this next year. But with that being said, before we begin, if you can like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you wish to become a channel member to support the channel on a monthly basis. By all means, you can hit the join button. So we're going to start off with the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, because they're number one in the conference. And I'm going to be real with you. Listen, the Eagles are for real. They have a legitimate MVP candidate in Jalen Hurts. I don't care how everyone wants to test it. He's the best quarterback currently in the NFC in terms of statistics and how the team's doing. And that's where MVPs go. They go to the player that has the best stats on the best team. And so it's really between him and Patrick Mahomes. Now, the one thing I will say with Philadelphia is that offensively, they're really damn versatile. I mean, the ability to run the ball, the ability for that offensive line to do its thing, the passing, they got everything, right? Realistically, their weakness is defensively. And I think, and on one part of the offense, I'm going to get into that in just a moment. That run defense, man. Like, you looked at what has happened, even with the additions of Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph, they really haven't done anything yet. I mean, then again, there's still plenty of time for them to fix that, but that's going to be a problem for them in the postseason, especially if they run into teams like the 49ers or they run into teams like the Dallas Cowboys, where they're running the ball very well. Now, that doesn't mean they can't beat those teams. That's not what I'm insinuating. What I am saying, though, is that those are teams that can run the ball well. And you kind of have to worry about that because, that's your Achilles heel right now, right? That's why they went and added those guys. Now, offensively, one of the weaknesses for the Eagles is that, and I've been noticing this, and it's been a bit, and there's really a small sample size, so I'm not, saying take this as verbatim. The problem is that with the Eagles offensively, if the run game stops and you force Jalen Hurts to play quarterback, sometimes they struggle. I'm not saying they struggle all the time. It's because, listen, the guy's young. He's got a fantastic work ethic, and it's showing off, right? He's making those progressions. I'm not a fan of us, I want Jalen Hurts or shit. No, he's not. He's a really good guy. He's a good player, and he's better than the other guy. At least he's willing to lead his team and not be a sore loser about it. I'm talking about Carson Wentz. Yeah, fuck Carson Wentz. For real, though. But on the real, I do think that for the Eagles, what worries me is that if you have to, they've been in situations where they have not had to pass the ball. They've been in situations where they can if they would like. And that's what worries me is that they haven't had that situation. So if they run into a team that can stop their run game and they are forced to pass, what happens? Again, there's going to most likely be some Eagles fans that think I'm hating, but I'm just letting you know that that's a problem. Like, we don't know, and odds are they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine. Look, they'll probably go on a run, but we'll see. I mean, there's nothing guaranteed. There are other teams in this conference that are scary, but that's the Eagles for you. I think the Eagles right now, they are labeled as a contender, firmly, and absolutely earned. Next, we move to the Vikings. Now, the Vikings perplex me. The reason why the Vikings are weird for me is that on paper, record-wise, and when you watch how this team is played, you would say that they are a contender. Now, they've won close games, which is a shout-out to them, and I made this comparison between them and the Giants. They are winning the games that are close that usually they would lose, which is that's what good teams do. I'm not trying to discredit what they're doing, but let's look at this realistically. So the two games they've lost were to Dallas at home, complete shellacking, and against Philadelphia on the road. And what scares me about the Vikings, if you're trying to pick them as a legitimate Super Bowl contender, is that a lot of these teams that they've beat, really, I mean, the Bills gave them that game. You have a situation to where a lot of these games, they kind of fortunate to be in those situations. I think they played the Dolphins without Tua, which I think they would have lost that game. So we're talking about a 9-2 team that can easily have a worse record. Now, again, I don't discredit teams that win close games. I mean, for fuck's sake, you won them for a reason. But again, context is key. And right now, the Vikings, I can make an argument for them. I can definitely see it, especially if they're the second seed. But I think they are a contender with an asterisk. They're not a pretender because there's certain criteria for that. But the reason I have the Vikings there as the contender with an asterisk is because it depends on the matchup. If they play a team like Dallas or the Eagles or the 49ers, I think they're going to get their asses beat. If they play a team like the Giants or a team like Washington, I think they'll be in a much better scenario, but we'll see. But if we were to look at it right now, they would play Washington, and we'll get into the playoff matchups at the very end, and kind of what I'm thinking is going to happen this postseason, to be real with you. Then we move on to the 49ers. Now, the 49ers scare me in the sense of what this team can and can't do. Really can. And that's run the damn ball. They added Christian McCaffrey, which in my opinion would be the power move of the whole conference. I mean, for God's sake, that team got a hell of a lot better. And I mean, as long as he stays upright, this team's most likely going to go on a run. They're playing phenomenal football. Jimmy Garoppolo is manning the ship and doing his thing. And look, they're good. They're really damn good. And I would say if you're the 49ers, I would say if you can get a matchup on the Giants or Washington, I think you can beat those teams relatively easily with what you've been able to do and go from there. Right now they would play the Giants, which would be a matchup of the old playoff game where it was the 49ers coming back. That was the Jeff Garcia, Terrell Owens, them doing their thing. But also it was the game where their pass interference should have been called, but it wasn't. But I don't really care. Yes, but the 49ers would win the West, and I label them as a contender firmly. I think that they will make it to the NFC Championship game, especially with the matchups, especially being the 3 seed. But then again, nothing's guaranteed. But right now, I would have them making it to the Conference Championship game. And we'll get into who I think it's going to be there in just a moment. Next, we move on to Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay, they're in the same designation as I would put the Vikings. Contender with an asterisk. Why? Because you got Tom Brady. Simple as that. Like, if Tom Brady continues playing like he's playing now in this offense, they ain't doing shit. But you can't count the guy. I'm going to just keep it a buck. You can't keep the guy, like, out of the count. They just lost to the Browns. Shocker. I mean, they have Atlanta right on their tail, and if Atlanta had beaten Washington, we would have a legitimate conversation on, okay, can Atlanta win the AFC South? But right now, the Buccaneers matchup would be Dallas, who they faced in Week 1. They beat, but completely different Cowboys team. And if I'm looking at this Cowboys team, I personally believe that, I mean, right now I would take Tom because knowing the history, I mean, it would be different if Dallas had beaten Green Bay. I would have a different vibe to this game. But the whole boogeyman thing is still real and alive, so I would definitely, you would definitely have to think about that. But, my heart's telling me Tampa Bay, but my brain would be telling me the Cowboys, if I'm being completely honest with you. I know you should think it's reversed, but it isn't. I'll explain why once we get to Dallas. But yeah, Tampa Bay just hasn't looked good offensively. Defensively, they're beat up. Offensively, like they're just lucky they're there. I mean, honestly, if you're a team that's in the 5th seed, which most likely will be the Cowboys, you're kind of just hoping you don't get Tampa Bay. Like, if you get a team like Atlanta, or if you're fucking lucky enough, you get Carolina, which you're definitely not. If you like, you look at this division: 5-6, 5-7, 4-8, and then you have 4-8. So, I mean, hey, listen, man, it's gonna be funny as shit. Well, that I'll just say. But right now, contender with an asterisk because of Tom Brady. Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys are an interesting team. I gotta say they are a contender. Not because I'm a fan, but listen, on paper, Dallas is a damn fine team. They have one of the best offenses in football when everybody's upright. They're going to be adding Tyron Smith soon back into the mix. Yeah, that offense is going to get better. And they're not playing good football right now offensively. Like, they're not playing clean football. So that's what scares me even more if I'm watching this from a third-party perspective, is that Dallas isn't even playing their best football. They haven't even peaked yet. I personally don't think Dallas hasn't peaked yet. Defensively, maybe, but, I mean, they're doing their job. Like, they're playing like a damn good unit. So if I'm looking at Dallas, I mean, them beating the Vikings and the Giants, like, you would have to discredit both of these teams, which, to be fair, I just discredited the Vikings. So. But Dallas is answering all those questions. Now, December is going to be a good month for them to prove that, are they the team to beat? Kind of similar how, I look at the 49ers. Like, right now, I would take the 49ers, but Dallas can make a name for themselves, okay? So if I'm looking at that, right now I'm saying, hey, you know what? Let's see what Dallas does. Right now, I think that, like I said, my heart's telling me take Tampa Bay because I know how they Tom Brady breaks the Cowboys' hearts. But my brain's like, you would take the Cowboys because of how they've been playing. But then again, we saw how things went. Okay, you're going into you're going into Green Bay, and you're gonna finally beat and you see what the fuck happened. Now, I don't think that's gonna happen again. I don't think Dallas is gonna be up 14 points and lose like that. I don't think that's gonna happen again. But I've seen crazier shit. So there's that. Next, moving on to the Giants. The Giants, I think, got fucked. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. They got fucked. Why is that? Because they're getting hurt at the wrong time. They now have a crucial matchup versus Washington to keep themselves afloat in the postseason picture. Because, look, they lost to Seattle. And that loss to Seattle could be crucial because if the Giants lose and Seattle wins, they get bumped out of the postseason. And I think that if you're the Giants, you kind of have to hope to God you win this matchup versus Washington. Because if you don't, their schedule doesn't look good. You play Washington, Philadelphia, Washington. I believe that's right. I mean, listen, man. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you're kind of hoping the Giants beat Washington to knock them down a peg. Then they go on and beat Philadelphia. Or, I mean, you really, honestly, I don't really give a shit. Like, I would say your rooting guide would be you hope the Giants win so that the Washington stays out of that spot. But then again, Dallas beat Washington. So I think it doesn't really matter at this point. But I'm going to just say, if you're the Giants and you're trying to get back in this NFC East, you kind of have to pray that Dallas falls off and Philadelphia falls off, which I don't think is going to happen. So, yeah, sucks Giants, but hey, they still have a chance to make the postseason, but their destiny is in their hands, and if they falter, which again they're getting hurt at the wrong time, it's going to be very tough. Next, you move on to Washington, to number 7, and with Washington, they've won 6 straight. I believe, 6 straight. They're 7-5 now. They've been playing amazing football ever since Taylor Heineke got reinserted back as the starter. They've been doing damn good. I mean, like, holy shit. Like, I can't even believe this. Like, they're playing complete sound football, and you can't really complain. Now, for Washington, while they've resurrected their season, they kind of they got to realize that you have to keep winning. If you lose this game against the Giants, it gets harder and harder for them because, I think right now the only team you got to worry about is Seattle because Seattle's the only other team that's above 500 in this conference besides the other teams, right? So if I'm Seattle, you're kind of banking on, okay, well, we got the tiebreaker versus the Giants, so you're kind of hoping Washington begins to fall off a bit. But, again, I think that Washington's in a good position. They just got to keep winning. And they nearly lost this game versus the Falcons. I think that's huge for them because they're still in the play. Wow. All 3 NFC East teams are in the playoffs. Or all, you know what I meant? All 4 NFC East teams are in the playoffs. So let's go through. I'm going to just go through, I guess, a little simulation off the top of my head. And oh, are the Giants and Washington contenders? No, I don't think they are. I think they're ahead of schedule where those teams are supposed to be. But no, I don't think those teams are contenders. And as for Seattle, no, I don't think Seattle's a contender. There you go. Those are your questions answered. So let's go ahead and start off. So bye week would be Philadelphia. 2-7 would be Vikings versus Washington. I would take I would take the Vikings to win that game in that matchup. 49ers versus Giants. I would take the 49ers to win that game. And then Tampa Bay versus Dallas. I'm going to go with until they can beat Tom Brady. I'm going to just say Tom Brady beats them. I'm going to just keep it a buck. Yes, all the wild card teams did. However, maybe, a reverse jinx is in the cards, but I'm just saying, like, right now I would take Tampa, just off of that sake, because again, that Packers game really fucked me up with how I'm looking at this Cowboys team, so they got to prove it to me again, because I know that they're beating teams, but I'll take Tampa Bay to move on. Next we have the divisional round. It would be Eagles versus Eagles versus Bucks, Vikings versus 49ers. And by Freudian slip, we'll tell you those are the teams that are going to advance to the NFC Championship game. Philadelphia and the 49ers. I think that the Eagles would be playing against the Tampa Bay team that is depleted. And really, it's kind of like, can you slay Tom Brady? He's been there, done that. And, who knows? Right? I mean, even if, for the Cowboys brethren and sisters out there, if this was the Cowboys going on the road, I think it would be a much different conversation, because with Philadelphia, you kind of have to think that, I'm not saying they're scared of Dallas. I'm not trying to imply that. But I would say that if Dallas is playing good football at the right time, you kind of have to be like, well, shit, like, you got to worry about that. Unless they trip over themselves, which they might. So hence why I have them losing in the first round. So the Vikings, I just think that the 49ers, I mean, they played them in the postseason before. They have a formula that works, and honestly, the Vikings, they're kind of in the same realm as Dallas. There's always a room for disappointment. So that means we got an Eagles-49ers NFC Championship game matchup, and I would go with the 49ers, and it's primarily the experience. I think that the run game would kill Philadelphia, and I think that it really comes down to this. If the Eagles jump up ahead early, I think they would win the game. So right now, you're looking at either Philadelphia and the 49ers coming out of the NFC. If you put a gun in my head, I would take the 49ers based off of the experience and stuff like that. But again, I've seen crazier shit happen, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my jinxing abilities are amazing. So yes, that is my review before we enter December of the conference. We will see how things shape up towards the end of this, so please make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Become a channel member if you would like to support the channel on a monthly basis, and I will catch you guys in the next one. All right, guys, have a good one.